$35 transaction. I repeat, $35 transaction. Can I get a confirmation on the address? The game store on West Street.
The game was paid for. The sound of the card reader was an exclamation point to all that had led to this point. I took my card out of the reader, and then it was over.
Alright, imagine this. You're a bunch of nerds from Finland in the late 90s and you make a benchmarking tool that sells 80 more billion units. What do you do with all this time and money? Well, naturally, you make one of the coolest original characters ever and put him in a game inspired by Hong Kong action. Sounds pretty cool? Think you'd like that? Yeah, of course you would, everyone liked it. Even Rockstar liked it, so they went to Remedy and said, hey, that Max Payne guy, yeah, we want to own him, but you can make another game. So they did that, and it was also cool as hell. But it didn't sell that great, so Max took a nap for a little bit. When Max woke up in 2012, Rockstar was making a new game, and also he was bald, which automatically makes it a 0 out of 10. Game was still pretty good though, but I'm not over that bald thing.
You may be noticing that this is definitely not the game that I hinted at in my last video, and that's because after thinking on it some more, I decided that game needs some more time in the oven before I'm willing to make a video about it. Anyway, Max Payne. He's been an iconic face in gaming since 2001, and to understand why, we're going to head through his first outing. That's right, I'm doing a plot summary. The first time for everything, I guess.
I was ready for yet another night of video production, but just when I thought I had it all, life threw a spanner in the works. My copy of Max Payne was in the wind, but I had to act fast. That's when my phone rang.
Spook Payne.
And you are?
Come to the living room.
Just what I needed. Weirdos on the phone, but I didn't have a choice but to listen.
Max Payne is a New York City cop living the American dream. He has a white picket fence house in a suburb, a wife, and a newborn. Things are going great. He even quit smoking.
You should quit smoking.
KYS. Anyways, things turn bad when some thugs break into his house and kill his entire family. Yeah, it's not ideal. Turns out the thugs were high on a new drug called Valkyr, so Max goes undercover for 3 years in the Punchinello crime family, who distribute the drug. As Max is in deep cover, he needs his friend to arrange a meeting between him and his old friend Alex. While waiting for that meeting, he gets in a shootout with some mobsters, and his cover is blown. Because this is a video game, instead of leaving, Max proceeds forward and stumbles upon a bank robbery. Being at the scene of a crime isn't really ideal, so he leaves, but when he does, Alex finally arrives for the meeting and is killed. Max is framed for the assassination, so now the police and the mob are after him. If you ever forget that Max is a wanted man, don't worry, because there's going to be about 5 cutscenes per level saying Max Payne is a wanted man. Anyway, since his cover is blown, Max begins Operation Take Down the Mob, which involves killing all of them. He searches for Punchinello's right-hand man, Jack Lupino, in the slums of New York, when suddenly... Max's narration tells us that the different mobs are at war, but to be honest, I kind of forgot because there's only one that really matters, and it's the one we're going after. We find Punchinello's right-hand man, and he tells us that Punchinello is at his nightclub. Honestly, would have never guessed. We also meet Mona. Max wants to ram his Oingo Boingo in her Velvet Underground. She's also going after Punchinello for abusing her sister and doesn't want Max to get in the way, so naturally, she drugs him with the extremely dangerous Valkyr. Yeah, really appreciate that one.
At this point, I'd like to mention a small criticism I have of the game's plot. Most of it is just things happening to Max, and while that's a serviceable way to tell a story, it can get a bit tiring when it keeps happening. Speaking of which...
I stumbled into the requested room with a strange sense of deja vu. There was no sign of the mystery caller, or a copy of the game. The air was thick with suspense, and poorly edited fog effects.
Ah, hello, Spoop. I have your game. Oh no, that is a bomb.
If I was a more poetic person, I'd say this was a sign, but I never much like Edgar Allan Poe, so instead I'll say I need to get out of here and finish this plot summary.
Max has a dream sequence where he's haunted by the murder of his family, and also he falls a lot on these blood vein bridge things. I might suck at video games. The mob finds Max after our platforming adventure and torture him. Obviously we escape and we soon strike a deal with Lem, who's a part of the Russian mob. Lem tells us of a weapons deal that was gonna go down on a ship because he's gang for real. We secure the weapons and try to ambush Punchinello at his restaurant. Because this is a video game, we fail and have to escape. Max finally takes the fight to the big bad in his manor and tries to kill him. Naturally, as it's only Act 2 of the game, Punchinella isn't really the big bad. Heavily armed suits storm the building and take him out, and then we get to meet the real villain, Nicole Horn. She's the one behind all the Valkyrie and mob conspiracy stuff we've been untangling the whole game, and she is not a fan of Max. Instead of having her several armed men gun him down, she instead injects us with Valkyrie, and we have yet another awesome dream sequence. Once again, say it with me, because this is a video game, Max survives and goes to shoot the hell out of some bad mercenary dudes. For some reason there's a hidden laboratory underneath and we learn hella plot down there. It's revealed that Valkyrie was originally made during the Gulf War to try and make some sort of super soldier, but it didn't really work. Nicole Horn is evil though, so she continues the project through her pharmaceutical company, Acer. We're told that Max's family being killed wasn't a random act of violence by some junkies. Max's wife had stumbled upon evidence of the Valkyrie project, so Nicole Horn personally ordered her death. Soon after that, she blows up the entire laboratory, so all the evidence of Valkyrie is gone. Because we kind of need to wrap up everything before we can get to the end of the game, we get some follow-up on Alex's murder at the start of the game. Max seduces the one who arranged the meeting, BB, killed Alex, and framed Max because he's working for Nicole Horn. Max shoots him dead, and that's all she wrote honestly. This next bit may seem out of nowhere, but I couldn't really fit this anywhere else. Throughout the game, Max has been receiving calls from one Alfred Woden, who has been somewhat helpful. Alfred calls up Max and says it's time to meet. It's revealed that Alfred is part of a secret society and Nicole was once part of it as well. No one really likes Nicole now though, so Alfred promises to help get Max out of everything and all the charges if he can take her out. Very inconveniently, Nicole's men kill everyone except Alfred, who manages to play dead and live. After escaping that nonsense and getting a tape that potentially contains Alfred fucking a prostitute, we finally go to kill Nicole. All that really happens on the way up to our office is Mona meeting us and saying she's supposed to kill us, but she doesn't want to. This seemingly gets her executed by the enemies, but her body goes missing and I've seen the Steam page for Max Payne 2, so I kinda have my doubts. We reach the top of the Acer Tower, and after one of the worst individual encounters of the game, we drop a crane on Nicole's head and she dies. The police arrest Max, but Alfred is there, which implies Max is gonna be alright.
Overall, Max Payne has a fairly serviceable plot that's covered up by really good voice work by James McCaffrey. I don't want to seem too negative, because in reality, James McCaffrey does a great job, and the story isn't all that bad. It's just I expected more. It's not really anything special, it's just about as good as your average video game story, but I expected more heading into this epic thriller.
I think the charm of Max Payne 1 is that it's so clearly a first attempt from everyone involved. Really the only voice actor who's anything more than charmingly amateur is James McCaffrey, who voices Max in every game. Not only does Max have an iconic voice that's always a treat to hear, he's written exceptionally well. Sam Lake is a natural writer, and it really comes through. When Rockstar made Max Payne 3, they turned Max into a vulgar, angry man, but that's just not Max. He's jaded but always lightens the mood with sarcasm. Every line is well written with tongue firmly in cheek. Now while I do love the excellent voice work, I wouldn't exactly praise his appearance. Now I'm not saying I don't like the comic panels or the 3D models in game. They add to the amateur feel I mentioned before and they're quite funny. It's just that, Sam, why did you make that face? Most of the stills use pictures of anyone they could get a camera in front of and they're quite amusing. Clearly none of these people are actors. Nicole Horn is literally played by Sam Lake's mom. And all this is because it's simply what they have the resources for. Turning the game's story into a comic book instead of a 3D movie saved a lot of money for While Max Payne's story is neat and all, the real reason that people still talk about it today and beg for more Max Payne action is because it's a solid game. Max Payne focuses entirely on one gameplay style and it nails it pretty well. In my personal opinion, it slips up on what surrounds it, but we'll get to that. As you may have gathered from the footage, Max Payne is a third-person shooter, one of the first, and you spend most of your time blasting enemies. What sets it apart is its unique shoot dodge and bullet time mechanic. Both are fairly simplistic, but they do a lot to elevate the basic gameplay. The shoot dodge lets you do a big ol' flop towards or away from the enemies. While jumping at enemies may seem impractical, real COD gamers will know flopping targets are much harder to hit, and that rings true in game. The bullet time, however, is a limited resource which refills whenever you kill an enemy. It slows down everything all the same, so you become as slow as the enemies, but because you're like a human, hopefully, it becomes much easier to aim and react. In my experience, you'll mostly use these at the same time. By default, they're bound to the same key, with the option to separate them up to you. These two mechanics turn Max Payne into a simple generic romp through New York into an immensely satisfying and fun game. At times. Another thing that sets Max Payne apart was interactivity. You can turn on TVs, make beds vibrate, get a soda. While this may seem mundane now, this was revolutionary at the time, and Max Payne would get even more interactive in the sequel. The final mechanic wholly unique to Max Payne is how health is handled. When exploring, you'll find painkillers, and these are your way of restoring health. What makes them special is that they are in no way instant. They take a set amount of time to refill, and you can take damage before they're done. Because of this, every painkiller usage has to be intentional. Now, if you combine all of these mechanics with the fact that weapons are generally inaccurate, and Max Payne is more about how you approach each encounter and not pinpoint accuracy and perfect dodges. Oh yeah, weapons.
What's good, Gucci gang? It's me, FPS Spoopa here, Totally Real Gun Channel. Today, we got some CO2 pistols. We're gonna be firing at our advanced firing range setup over there. Let's get started.
Max Payne is nothing special when it comes to weapons. It follows Doom's tradition of having several types and then power levels within each type. For example, you start with the regular Beretta, and then you get the dual Berettas, and finally you get the Deagle. Most of them aren't a straight increase in power, however, rather functioning as a side grade. For example, the regular shotgun shoots slowly, but has 7 bullets in the tube, whereas the sawed-off has a lot of power and you can blast it out quickly, but with only 2 rounds, meaning it's easy to get hit during the reload. Something else I find really neat is how the enemies all use the same weapons as you, meaning it's really easy to gauge how much of a threat they are. You hear the 80 Hz buzz of the Ingrams and you know to be careful. Speaking of which, the weapons in Max Payne all sound fairly good and have nice satisfying reloads. It's fun to shoot things in this game in general.
Did you try the medicine drug?
Occasionally, my fellow checkpointer has said that I straight up suck at retro games, and you know what? He's right. So let that outline everything I'm gonna say next. However, just know people who don't suck at video games also have some issues with Max Payne 1, so you can make your own decisions.
I want to make this very clear. Max Payne 1 is a good game, even today, and it's still fun even today. However, as it goes on, it gets worse and worse, and I'm gonna complain and whine about it like a little bitch.
Let's start with the simple and most frustrating thing. Playing Max Payne is the same as playing Modern Warfare 2019, and if you don't know what that means, let me explain. Campers. Enemies in Max Payne start off being placed by someone who actually likes fun, but as the game goes on, the placement gets worse and worse. Sometimes they'll be pressed directly against a wall behind a potted plant with a head glitch. It gets even worse when they'll be placed normally, but then run away when they see you to an evil dickish spot just to catch you out. Stuff like this resulted in me quicksaving after literally every enemy because of how often the game likes putting enemies in corners. Saving non-stop like this almost remedies how inaccurate guns can result in damage or death. Almost. It's extremely frustrating to die to the roll of a dice. Another insanely frustrating thing that relates directly to enemy design is the weapons. I mentioned before how the enemies using the same weapons as you is cool. Well, it's less cool when all the enemies have the powerful M16 or the one-shotting shotgun. That's basically the entire third act. Every single enemy can kill you in half a second. So instead of quick saving because I didn't want to take extra damage from an enemy in a corner, I'm quick saving because if the enemy see me for longer than a second, I'm dead or just about. It doesn't help that shoot dodging becomes way less useful when a single bullet is doing a quarter of your life from across the room on the normal difficulty. Since finishing the game, I have played it a bit more, and let me tell you, the difference between the first and second playthrough is insane. Knowing where all the bullshit is makes the game way more enjoyable. But sadly, there's no way to make the bosses enjoyable. I didn't bring them up at all during the previous section, and that's because I have nothing positive to say about them. They're just regular enemies, and remember, regular enemies can kill you very quickly, but they have way too much health. There's no way to fight them that isn't just lobbing explosives at them or getting them stuck and shooting for like 30 seconds straight. Their only saving grace is they're just beefed up regular enemies, so they're very stupid. This guy literally gets stuck most of the time.
When I came to, I was right in front of the video game store with my wallet planted firmly in my hand. I hadn't come all this way just to not review Max Payne. I scoured the shelves, but couldn't find it. It was then when it hit me. It was face out in the expensive game shelf. It was like a shining beacon in the dark story I've been in.
Wait, this is the PS2 version, god damn it. Here we arrive at my favorite point in the scripting process, version differences. Max Payne has 3 primary versions, PC, PS2, and Xbox. We're going to start off with the PC version because it's the most accessible and the original. You may be wondering why I'm bothering even discussing the version that I've actually been reviewing this whole time. The rest of you will know exactly why I'm doing this. Max Payne 1 does not like modern machines, at all. If you're considering playing it, you'll want to download the fix pack. I didn't even try running it without the fix pack, but I've heard more than likely it just won't launch. But the issues don't end there. Let's say you're a goober who wants to make a video about Max Payne. Well, obviously you have to record it, right? No, the game does not agree. No matter what software I used, I ran into this weird issue where my mouse would seemingly jump around and it made frustrating sections even more of a pain. The final notable thing about the PC version is that it still has the Twin Towers in a few shots.
Checkpointer number 2 speaking.
Come on, make the 9/11 joke.
What do you take me for, a bad person?
Yeah, you dirty smoker.
Oh, 9/11. Oh, 9/11. Oh, 9.
Following up from the PC version, we have the PS2 version. Now, what I will say about the PS2 version is it's definitely the most common. I found this for basically nothing. And let me tell you, I still felt like that was too much for this game. This is not the ideal way to experience Max Payne, but let's just get right into it.
Starting with the boring stuff, the game splits up the levels into smaller bits and has more loading screens due to the PS2's limitations. There's also no quick saves at all. More importantly, however, they removed the Twin Towers.
Oh, 9/11.
None of that matters though, because the real reason the PS2 version sucks is entirely down to performance. The visuals are compromised and still the game dips into single digits in nearly every single encounter. The devs were probably aware that this is unplayable, so they gave you the option to have magnetic bullets. Another strange thing is the enemies seem to be unable to hit you a lot of the time, and I can't really find a reason for this. On the PC version, even in the early areas, Max can be a little frail, but on the PS2 the enemies' bullets just don't seem to connect, and when they do they seem to do less damage, except shotgun enemies because lol. Now I did not beat this version for the video, primarily because I value my time, but also because it's a pain to record due to me playing it on my PS3, but I can confidently say that it's not the same as the PC version and should not be treated the same. Due to the limitations making the game easier, I'm sure it wouldn't be a terrible experience if you can handle 5 FPS, but it just isn't the same. Max Payne 1 is infamous for welcoming new players with a kick to the jaw, and the PS2 version doesn't even lift its leg. If you want to play Max Payne, just get the PC version.
Overall, the PS2 version is just not a great way to play Max Payne. I would not recommend it for anyone's first experience with the game, or even their second. Just play the harder difficulties of the PC version. However, some people seem to think the Xbox version is a fairly close recreation. I disagree with these people. Originally in this video, I wasn't going to talk about this version at all, because I didn't own it. However, as I was expanding my Tony Hawk's library to get the worst games in the entire series, I got this, and it was basically free. So I'm just going to talk about it right here, because let me tell you, these two are the same game. The only difference between the Xbox version and the PS2 version is that this one looks slightly better and has quick saves. It still has massive lag spikes, the enemies can't hit you worth anything, and it's just not the same experience as the original PC release. I don't know why every single person online seems to think this is a travesty and this is just somehow good enough, because both of them are terrible. I honestly don't know what's going on with that. Breathing. Now, see, originally, this is off the cuff by the way, I have the Xbox set up, I had the capture card already, I was going to have a whole section where I talked about how good this version was, but I hooked it up, and it was the same thing. There's like 30 minutes of footage that you're not going to see, because I could lie to you and just say it's PS2 footage, because they're exactly the same. It literally doesn't matter. I don't know why anyone is recommending either of these versions over each other. Really, the only thing that should distinguish how you play Max Payne is what's convenient. If you want to play the PC version, just play the PC version. If you want to play the Xbox version, I don't know why, but just get it. It's really just a matter of pricing. These two games are exactly the same, and neither of them are good enough. You know what really annoys me? I saw this comment when I was researching both of these versions in a Reddit thread, and someone was like, you know what's wrong with retro reviewers? They don't act like, it's like they have to act like really reviewed at the time. It's like, no, at the time these were still inferior versions of Max Payne. I guess if you're 9 years old and you're dying to experience it, you don't have a $12,000 PC. I guess these were fine. And nowadays, what's the problem with saying these people are worse than the PC version? Because objectively they are. The PC version is a very punishing third-person shooter that rewards accurate play and great timing. You just walk forward and shoot people with automatic aim that locks on the end. These are entirely separate games. I don't see how that's a bad thing. Because 17 at the time are a lot more accessible. That makes it but I'm not on for reviewing a game with own perspective because I was on a private phone. Like, I'm reviewing it for people who are playing it out. I'm not reviewing it for people who already played it. I watch games that already played it. Like, I was just trying to piece of shit. I'm tired of shit. At least it's not. Okay? I don't these games. They go, well, they suck. These games suck. The PC version is a pain in my ass. Not these two. And these fucking sit around my house. Like, gaming recorders with me because of history. We did it. So fucking thing. You see this nonsense? My PC here has inbuilt copy protection right here. It's in the port. I can't take it out. I can't even record that part. You know, 30 songs, 50 seconds. That's what I got. I like all of them.
What is it now?
Aren't you supposed to be a mobile gamer?
Yeah, so what?
There's a mobile port, genius.
Now, originally, I did plan on playing this version because I heard it was an improvement on the console ports, and the other Rockstar mobile ports are great. Sadly, the Google Play Store says my phones are too new to play it. I read online that some people have tried some weird PC nonsense and running virtual Android versions to get it working, but I've read just as many comments saying those methods didn't work. To keep it 100 with you guys, I didn't want to troubleshoot getting a version of the game to work that, according to all accounts, is a port of the PC version. There wouldn't be anything new to cover. If you're interested, I'd recommend searching for some of these strange methods people have done to get it working. If I can say anything from personal experience, it's that the other Rockstar mobile ports are great and will run on basically anything. I literally used to play Vice City on a $30 phone, but if you want to get Max Payne on a modern phone, I guess you'll just have to get an APK.
Piracy is a crime.
But you literally can't buy it anymore.
Don't care, you scumbag. Now give the people more Max Payne.
There's no more versions to talk about, though.
What about the Game Boy Advance version?
Be so for real right now.
Don't make me send the sink pooper again.
Fine.
Max Payne on the Game Boy Advanced is an alright game. Yeah, I don't really have all that much to say about it. It's a straight port. Same areas, similar gameplay, same story. They tried to jam it with as many of the comic panel cutscenes as possible, and honestly, they aren't horrible. It probably helps that Max Payne didn't have many FMV cutscenes to begin with, so it doesn't feel like a downgrade the moment you see the comic panels. One thing that surprised me is how much it is still Max Payne. Enemies hit hard and aren't inaccurate. They're also frequently off-screen. Wait a minute. Lives? In Max Payne? Oh lord. If the end of this game is anything like the console version, then maybe don't play this one. This is just a first impression, obviously, but if I was a kid in 2001 and wanted Max Payne action on the go, this is an entirely serviceable way to play the game. To be honest, I'd rather play this version than the PS2 version, but that's just me. I'm a frame rate whore.
Hey, and just what exactly are you doing?
Playing Guitar Hero.
You have a video to finish.
But look, it's Hayley Williams.
If you don't get up and finish that video, I'm gonna change you from a guitar hero to a guitar dead.
I know this video got pretty negative at points, but I do want to stress that I had fun throughout. I think the story and presentation is super fun and entertaining, the gameplay is incredibly solid, and even though the game gets very bullshit towards the end, at least you have a quick save. I am told that essentially all the problems with gameplay are resolved in Max Payne 2, so maybe I'll have to give that a try. There's definitely a reason people are thirsting for more Max Payne action. After Max Payne 2, no other game really filled the void left by Remedy Entertainment. For some, not even Max Payne 3 did. Luckily for us jolly old gamers, there's remakes of Max Payne 1 and 2 in the pipeline made in-house by Remedy, so definitely keep an eye out for that. Until then...
Look, it's Ted Nugent, the racist guy.
You're troubled.